Aum Gangadipataye Namaha. Namaste. So, in the last two videos, we presented Ramana's analysis of the difference between self-realization and ignorance. And then we tied that in with the Buddha's analysis of the root process or the root thought, the I am thought, which is the cause of bondage, and how that can be overcome by substituting for I am the body, I am Brahman. Now, it's a little bit technical, and I didn't get any comments or any questions on it, which means nobody got it. So please make comments, ask questions, because I don't know what you don't understand. To me, it's perfectly clear. So if you're having a hard time implementing this teaching, if you can't just sit down and do it, replace the seed thought, I am the body, with I am Brahman. If you can't just do that, you have a question, right? Send me your questions, and then I'll address them in later episodes. So for now, I'm going to assume that you did understand it, because after all, I didn't get any questions, right? And I'm going to go ahead and, based on the previous two videos and this one, give the key to understanding exactly what is neo-Advaita compared to authentic Advaita. Let's look at the verse. For the sake of those ignorant ones who take the world which appears before them as real and enjoyable, it became necessary for the scriptures to say that it is God's creation. But for those who have obtained unobstructed knowledge of self, the world is seen merely as a bondage-causing mental imagination. It's a dream. It's an imagination. Something that we create. It's an overlay. It's something that we put on top of reality. This is what Ramana is teaching, and it goes all the way back to Shankaracharya, and before that, all the way back to Upanishads. So, if we simply remove the overlay, the artificial thought, and we go back to the original perception, everything is fine. What does this have to do with neo-Advaita? Remember, there are 4 levels of the Vedic teaching. Dvaita, or duality, which is ordinary religion. Vishishta Dvaita, which is mixed duality and non-duality, and this is usually bhakti teaching. Vivartavada is the teaching of Ramana Maharshi. He states it very clearly in this book. He teaches Vivartavada because most of the sadhus or seekers who come to him are ripe. They're ready to hear the truth, but they're not fully ripe. They're not on the Ajata platform. The Ajata platform is for the fully ripe, Adi Tivra. So, that teaching actually cannot be explained in words. But there are a few Mahavakyas that express it. The Vishishta Dvaita teaching, mixed bhakti and Advaita, is the subject of extensive writings like the Puranas, the Vedic literatures. And then Vivartavada is also the subject of the extensive writings of the Advaita school. Now, where does neo-Advaita fit in? Neo-Advaita says, I don't need no stinking sadhana. It's very irreverent. It's very insulting. Because really what Advaita says is that we don't need the Vivartavada. We can jump straight to Ajatavada. But of course they can't. And I don't know how many times I've been over this. In previous videos, there was even one called Jump Up, Fall Down. Because that's what happens. The neo-Advaitins try to jump up artificially to the platform of Ajata. And that only results in them falling down, crashing and burning. Because they're not qualified. It is stated in a couple of scriptures that if one simply hears the truth about the self, he's liberated. However, this is only true if one is already completely purified. If the mind, in other words, is fully ripe, the fruit will fall from the tree with just a tiny little touch. But if the fruit is not ripe, you can hit it with a sledgehammer and it's not going to fall. It's just going to break. And that's what happens to the neo-Advaitins. They want to jump up to a Ajata platform, but their minds aren't ripe. They're still too dry. They're not filled with nectar. A ripe fruit is full of nectar and it's heavy and it falls. The dry fruits that are still green are lighter because they're not mature. So they can't be guru. They can't be heavy. They're laghu. They're lightweights, man. So this is the problem. And so we can precisely define neo-Advaita as a false teaching which masquerades as authentic Advaita, in which the true teaching, Ramana's teaching of Vivartavada, is rejected and one artificially tries to climb to the Ajata platform. And of course, it doesn't work. You would think, after a few years of paying outrageous fees to these phony teachers for useless seminars, you would think that they would finally notice that, actually, I'm not enlightened. And go look into it and find out why. And of course, the why is you didn't do your homework. You didn't do your sadhana. You didn't look up all your terms in the dictionary and find out what they really mean. So you're just guessing. You're faking it. And this is not one of those things where you got to fake it till you make it. This is one of those things you can't fake. There's no shortcuts. You're either ready or you're not. And when you're ready, the enlightenment happens effortlessly. And if you're not, no amount of force can make it happen. So we see people doing these huge efforts, and getting nowhere. I love to tell the story of the New York psychiatrist who went every year to Thailand to sit in this famous monastery for summer rains. So he would go every year for 25 years, he told me. And I was impressed. I said, wow, you must be really enlightened by now. And he says, well, I'm still working my way through my childhood emotional traumas. Like, duh? After 25 years of meditating like 12 hours a day, every day for a month or two, every summer, in a very, very holy, sacred place, and you still haven't got it? Dude, something is wrong. And what's wrong is that, just like these neo-Advaitans, the neo-Buddhists are in the same kind of fix regarding the Buddhist teaching. But that's a whole other story. I'm not going to go into that here now. The important thing to know is that all these false teachers promise a shortcut. If you just chant this mantra 24 hours a day, if you just observe all these regulative rules and principles every day for the rest of your life, if you just offer homage to this great guru or this great soul, and he's going to zap you and you'll be enlightened instantly. Or if you just give a lot of money to our foundation, or if you just read this book, and adopt this intellectual view, then that's it. That's all you need. You're going to get enlightened. No. There ain't no shortcut. You have to do your work. And what is that work? We described it in the last video. You have to change the root thought of your mind from I am this body and mind to I am Brahman. And that's just the start. Then you have to parse through all the memories and all the circuits and all the repetitive things that go on in your mind and make sure they connect with that new root thought, not the old one. And that's a piece of work that takes years. You can't short circuit that. There's no way. There's no drug you can take that's going to make you realize Brahman. First, you have to purify the mind. And then a small push by a realized soul. Or you don't even have to have a guru present. If you're ready, it'll happen. When I had first path realization in Portland, I was all alone. I was completely alone. I went for weeks without seeing anybody. Just going to the store maybe and buying food, that's all. But when the time came, boom, it hit. God or goddess is perfectly able and willing and ready to give you that push anytime, anywhere. The problem is we aren't ready. But if you prepare yourself properly, if you do your homework, if you purify your mind, and make it blameless and sinless and shining and beautiful, filled with loving thoughts, and of course the knowledge. But what is there to know? I'm not this body, I'm Brahman. That's it. But you have to develop that thought, and that's the work you have to do. And that's my whole job, is simply to convince you to do that. There's plenty of books, plenty of sadhus, plenty of gurus, whatever. How many of them are going to say, sit down, shut up, and clean your mind? Om Tat Sat. Om Harihi Om.